Hi, and welcome back to the Bandwich Tapes. I'm your host, Brad Williams. Today I'm joined by the amazing Viktor Krauss, bassist, composer, producer, and all-around musical force. You might know him from his work with Lyle Lovett, Bill Frisell, his sister Alison, and even Robert Plant. But what I think sets Viktor apart is how effortlessly he moves between genres, always bringing his melodic, textural style that just feels like storytelling. In this episode, we get into all of it, from his early influences to what it's like working with artists like Lyle Lovett and Bill Frisell. We talk about collaborating with legendary drummers like Steve Jordan and Matt Chamberlain, and how he balances the roles of sideman and solo artist. I have to say that this one meant a lot to me personally. I've been a fan of Viktor's playing for many years, and it was an honor to get to talk with him. So here's my conversation with the brilliant Viktor Krauss. Hey, Viktor, how's it going today?
Good. Thank you for inviting me to be part of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at your website, I saw some photos of your studio. Man, it is gorgeous.
So thank you.
Yeah.
That was something we built about. I guess it was we wanted to do it for a long time, and it kept on getting. We'd go so far, and then stop, and then pick up and think that it was a good idea again, and it was in full construction during the pandemic, but we kept going with it. So
yeah,
it's here. But yeah, we're really proud of it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space. So, what are you bringing in clients? Are you doing mostly your thing, or what are you doing in there?
It's kind of a combination of both. Lately, it's been more other people doing. Clients coming and doing that, either small projects or a lot of the time I'll be asked to do overdubs from that location but on occasion there's some stuff of mine that kind of surfaces.
Yeah.
But it seems like I've been busy with other people. That's more so lately.
I know you play many different instruments. So what do you do mostly?
Most of the time it is upright bass, and then and then people that know me a little better say, "Oh, well, if you hear anything else, go ahead and stick something else on there." But yeah, it's really upright bass more than anything else. And then if it calls, then I'll either put some keyboard stuff or guitars. And I don't ever claim to be a drummer, but I own them. Yeah.
Do you record drums at your studio?
Yeah, I'm able to do that as well. That was kind of one of the things to be able to make it be attractive, for small projects, and be able to do. I think we've had the most. It can do 4 pretty easily. Once we get in above numbers of that, then it gets we have to get a little creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, from the photos I've seen, it is such a beautiful space. And
thank you.
Has to be quite a nice creative room, to feel really inspired to record in there.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that we live in a neighborhood with primarily houses from the late 19th century to 20th. Early 20th, and our house was built in 1905, and we wanted to make the building look like it was always there, and so we kind of made it look like a kind of like a carriage house type building, and then inside of it we mimicked a lot of the same architectural attributes that were in the original house and tried to make it look that way. And a lot of the time people kind of ask, they say, well, how long was this building here, or was this always here? And I'm always happy when that question gets asked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. Yeah. What kind of music were you attracted to, and where did the path start for you?
Well, I think there was always music playing in the house, and primarily like classical music, and then my dad was also interested. He also liked Hank Williams, Senior, and but there was also operas, and just it was an interesting mix of material, and I started playing piano at age 5, and my sister also at 5, playing violin. But I think I was more attracted to my favorite music to listen to growing up were film scores, and I had after seeing Star Wars, got the soundtrack,
of course,
double record, and but my favorite one was the Close Encounters of the Third Kind soundtrack for some reason, and that was just such a I don't know. What's interesting about soundtrack music is that the irregular forms that are kind of enhancing either dialogue, if you're weaving around dialogue or action, but its main intent is for you to feel emotion, and so that always, to me, like I would always, like I would take away the movie if I was familiar with, if I'd already seen the movie, and I'd be playing with Legos or whatever, and I would have my own movie that I was making, or some kind of emotion that would be generated from listening to those scores. And then after that point, when I started playing bass, I got into listening to a lot of jazz, just because then I started to hear what was possible, especially on the upright bass. And I became really attracted to, I loved the Oscar Peterson Night Train record.
Yeah.
Just wore that out, and just hearing Ray Brown. This was in middle school. It was pretty much daily listening, and I just loved that. And then in high school, that's when I really started getting into rock music and the music of the time period. And then somebody introduced me to Led Zeppelin, and then that changed my life forever.
Yeah. As did us all, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of, and maybe this is just my subjective ear to it, but I hear a nod to Charlie Hayden a lot in your playing. Did you listen to a lot of Charlie?
I really didn't, but I've heard people say that before. Just in terms of where maybe the instinct is not necessarily to play all over the place, but to maybe kind of be concentrated on just like the sound of the instrument and how it complements others. And I guess, I didn't start that way. When I was playing, I was kind of going, okay, what can I do here and be a young spastic player. And then as I got older, just in terms of playing with especially with a lot of vocalists, and trying to really be in tune to what felt appropriate to play. I think maybe that's where, I don't know, maybe that's, I kind of feel that way in his playing too. Yeah.
I think too, the thing that, and let me back up and say, so I studied as a percussionist in college, but eventually I'm primarily a singer, but became a singing bass player. So I'm attracted to drummers and to bass players specifically. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I've noticed between the two of you is that it's very evident that you come from many different angles of what you've listened to. Hearing classical music, hearing film music, jazz, then hearing Hank Williams in your house. It's a deep understanding of many styles that forms this cohesive thing in the center that you both do.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I think it's even specifically about the bass is that, all that stuff you can bring your whole, even if you're dealing with a certain aesthetic that becomes you, or that it's like a parameter, or your set of tools. You can apply all that knowledge. There's lots of overlap.
Yeah.
Between what can be appropriate. Like even if you find a way to, whether or not you're playing a rock, heavy rock tune or a jazz tune, all those elements that from each one of those genres can assist in some way.
Yeah.
And even if, they always call the money range. What is that?
It was like there's no money above the fifth fret. Is what I've always said.
Yeah. So like if you're playing in first position, maybe second position, which is pretty much what everybody wants to hear most of the time, and that's that's where it sounds the best most of the time.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a very, very small range of something that really works. And if you just use that area for the most part, a lot of things will help each other out.
Absolutely, sure.
Not to say that you can't go up high, but it's all that information really does help, to be able to sound realistic,
right?
In multiple genres.
Sure, right, yeah, and to fit into the setting in which you're playing, right, and you're I guess, depending on the instrumentation of the group you're in and things like that. Yeah. I think the first time I heard you play was the Bill Frisell Nashville album.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And I was fairly new to Bill's music, and I just remember hearing that and seeing a lot of names that I had seen growing up, a lot of bluegrass players and things like that, but then hearing you play, and it just knocked me out. You're playing on that. How did your relationship with Bill start? How did you guys start playing together?
Well, that was interesting because I had never heard of him prior to that record.
Really?
Yeah, and this was in '95, and I think he had been talking to. I know he talked to Kyle Lenning, who's this fantastic producer, very famous and well respected. Producer here in town, and I believe still at the time he was running Asylum Records, and there was some mutual contacts between None Such, which was Bill's label at the time, and Asylum, and so Kyle kind of became a little bit of a facilitator would be the best word for it, but just he introduced some people, and I had done prior to this. I was working with Lyle Lovett by that point, and I had done some work with Peter Rowan, prior to that, and I was kind of maybe an interesting choice to be recommended for it because I'd been sort of in the jazz world and also in the bluegrass world a little bit, and they thought, since the Nashville record was going to be kind of a hybrid of Bill's take on either country music or bluegrass music and surrounding it by those players, they thought that I might be a good fit. And if I understand it correctly, I think he wasn't initially going to have bass on the record, and some of the guys, and like Adam Steffi and Jerry Douglas, who'd been playing with Alison's band already. I think it was a combination of Kyle and those guys saying that, that I might be a good fit for that. And so I didn't hear any music prior to going in the studio with him. But I remember I remember exactly, I was talking to him. I was out with Lyle. I talked to him on the phone from the basement dressing room of the Paulo Soleri amphitheater in Santa Fe, which isn't there anymore. And he sounded really nice on the phone, and there was a couple of the horn players in Lyle's band who were saying, "Oh, Bill Frisell," and I was like, "Oh my," and I said, "Oh yeah," and I hadn't. He said, "Oh, you need to check this out." And I think it was probably good that I hadn't heard much prior to it, otherwise I would have been really intimidated.
Yeah.
But I just remember the first time we went was tracking with him, and it was a couple tunes that actually didn't make that. We almost recorded twice as much material than what actually surfaced on the record. But I remember going in the studio with him, and it was at Sound Emporium here in Nashville, and just going, "Wow, this is incredible," and I felt totally like, okay, this is, I felt like I was, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I felt like I was made for that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that statement.
And it was just like, when it was so comfortable, and a sense of, there was, and that record has no drums. So it was like there's, the closest thing to a backbeat was sometimes mandolin.
Yeah.
And just the sense of feel of how to play with him, and just like everything felt like it fell into place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an incredible album, and then all the subsequent albums after that you played on with him. It just there was, you can, as a listener, you can just sense this musical kinship that you and Bill seem to have with each other.
Yeah. It was a nice slew of records we got to do, and the shows were really fun too.
Yeah, I imagine. I'm remembering the Good Dog, Happy Man album. I think Jim Keltner played drums on that album as well, which,
Yeah, those two records. It's interesting. Like that record, the Good Dog, Happy Man, and then the Gone Just Like a Train record, which was the record we did prior to that, just as a trio. That one, out of anything that I've done in my career, that one people usually bring up before anything, or know me because of that record. And, it was like I had no idea at the time. I knew it was special, but I had no idea that it would be that much of a stamp or
absolutely. I
milestone.
I think it will. It will be one of those albums that's talked about many years from now. That just the playing and just the overall vibe and atmosphere of it. Yeah, it's incredible. You talked about Lyle earlier. How did that opportunity come your way?
That one I really went after, just kind of knew that I wanted to play with him. And I think it's just because, I heard the Lyle Lovett and his large band record that came out in '88. And, you would see him, he seemed like he was always on the Tonight Show. And every time you'd hear him, it was just like, wow, that's really cool. What a different approach to things. And when I was moving to Nashville, I was kind of thinking, boy, if there's an artery to make this work, to try to figure out how I could maybe play with him. And so I just kind of made it known to his management. And there was some people, I would hear the right people. Okay, this person plays with him. You should get to know him. Or there's a certain manager who was Ken Levitan at the time in the I guess was his manager in the late 80s and early 90s. Well, no, actually even for longer. And then he also had a management team in New York. So he was managed by, his career was big, or is big. And so I kind of got to find out who those people were and just made it known that I wanted to do it. And there were some other people that came to shows. It was kind of almost being at the right place at the right time, but also being not maybe borderline obnoxious about and just trying to let people know I wanted to do it. And then I remember calling Ken Levitan and saying, hey, I'd love to do it. And he says, well, he doesn't need anybody right now, but I'll keep you in mind. And I was working with Peter Rowan at the time, and then we weren't working very much in a particular summer. And I said, well, it would be good to. It was kind of lean and a little scary, and I said, well, I'll just call him out of the blue just to see if there's any other artists who might be looking for anybody. And then pretty much before I even said hello, he says, oh, Lyle may need a bass player. And so it was just the right timing for that. And again, there were enough people that had heard me play live in different situations that were able to kind of vouch for my playing. And so I never really had a formal audition with Lyle. I just, I met him at the hotel where he was staying, and then they pretty much hired me about 10 days before I was going to go out on a tour with him. And so it was a lot of, kind of back and forth and wondering if it was going to happen. And so they had the bass player prior to me do the first week, and I watched and took notes and did whatever. And then we switched, maybe about 6 or 10 days into the show. And then
off you went.
Yeah. And I pretty much did that gig except for, when we started having children, pretty consistently until, it was 28 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah. I did an Austin City Limits show with him in just this past November, but since doing the tour with Robert and Alison, I haven't been doing it quite as much.
Penguins are so sensitive. Penguins are so sensitive. Penguins are so sensitive to my needs. To my needs. To my needs. To my needs.
Get a chuckle out of this. Years ago, many years ago, when I was a little kid, through a family trip to Nashville, I met Bruce Boughton, who's a steel guitar player there. Yeah. And I recorded a package album up there. And this would have been mid to late 80s. And we were trying to determine who was going to play on the record. And Bruce was like, there's this young guy that just moved to town. We should really consider having him play piano on it. He's like 19. He's really good. And it was Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Matt had just moved to town. And so at that time when we recorded the album, Matt played piano on it. And J. David Sloan came to the studio while we were recording, which I know is, good friends with Lyle. And I'm sure you've hung out with him through the years.
It's funny. I saw him, I guess in August.
Really?
He played a show outside of Phoenix, and he came to the show.
I remember. I mean, I was a kid, but I just remember he was such a sweetheart, such a nice guy.
Still sweet.
Yeah. What a band you guys were. That whole group with Lyle. I mean, it's just I just can't imagine, and just so many. So much going on, but never busy, never, everyone just doing what they were supposed to do. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and that band, I mean, just like as you said, it's always been a great cast of player. Even the band he's taken out now is, I mean, it's just as incredible.
Yeah.
And just being able to play among those caliber of musicians night after night was really, really something.
Yeah.
And helped, I think, just as an education in terms of what to play and what not to play, and especially also playing in a 17-piece band, where to not to be mindful to play the right thing at the right time, not overstep anything.
Yeah.
Know your place, and that was always great about that group.
Is he an active? I will call him the band leader. Is Lyle? Does he get in the weeds with the band about what to play, or does he kind of let everyone trust that everyone does what they're supposed to do?
In certain arenas, it is. It's different in the studio versus live. Like in the studio, it's. I mean, a lot of those tunes have been tunes that he's had a while, but they're not fully realized until they're realized to his arrangement, but then it goes a step further with all the ensemble there. Mm. A lot of the time in the studio, it seems that the casting, everybody's making a decision. If something doesn't work, he'll speak up, but most of the time it's the parts are being invented at that point. Mm-hmm. And it can often depend on the particular chair, or instrumentalist. In the live situation, there are parts on the records that are key to being reproduced live. Yeah. But there's also parameters in which, or for freedom of improvisation, and whereas some things become more important to others than other things, and like someone like Matt would play it completely different every night, but like on the case of the tune North Dakota, where it has that beautiful piano intro, that's got to be some semblance of that,
right?
And but yeah, it's there's certain things that he'll allow people to be free on, and certain things that he'll be more particular.
Yeah, that's great. I was fortunate to see you play with Lyle a few times, and I've always been knocked out by the band as a whole, but specifically the thing that I guess want to say to you the most is that anytime I hear you play, within 2 seconds, I know that it's you. And
that's nice.
And that's, and I feel like as musicians, that's like, I guess the goal that we all want. We want to have an identity, right?
Yeah. Well, that's like one of the biggest compliments, provided that you like it.
Yeah, that's why we're sitting here talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just your tone, it's just you have such a unique fingerprint of your playing, and it's just nice. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Did you play a lot of classical music on Upright, or
I didn't. When we were taking when I was taking lessons to begin with, I did start off on classical bass in middle school and a little bit of high school, and I actually did. I went to the school at the University of Illinois, and my degree program for one semester was bass performance, and I knew within about a week that I was just like, no, that's not going to be me. Even though I love classical music, and I got to play some incredible pieces, like almost kind of favorites within just that one semester, and but I knew that I guess I liked improvising too much, and being on the creative end of things, as opposed to just without sounding derogatory, but without being someone who's carrying music along to be the next person who can play it live, and which I commend everyone who does that, but it just wasn't necessarily for me, and. But yeah, and then I played a lot of jazz, and again, just kind of finding out what's possible. And then also I used to accompany my sister in bluegrass competitions, and then I played in Union Station just for a little period before it became the version that has been with her for so long.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I did play a little bit of classical.
Yeah. One of my best friends is a guy named Mark Mundy, and you may know his brother Matt Mundy.
Okay, I know the name.
Yeah. Matt's a great mandolin player. Their mom is her name is Frances Mooney, and she's an upright bass player in the bluegrass world and done a lot of stuff. And he's told me so many stories of just the world of bluegrass festivals and just going around and playing. And I'm sure you've done many of those in your life.
Yeah, those are fun. It's a whole scene, and it's close knit, and everybody seems to, at least it was when I was doing that a little bit more. Yeah. And I think it's I'm sure you hear this a lot of the time, but I mean, like, the bluegrass circuit and the jazz circuit are very similar in terms of people all know the players, and it's like it's almost like the appreciation of players. Like, people want to know who's all playing in the band, and it's just as integral to the personality of who's playing mandolin in one band or saxophone in another band, or who's playing, people want to know all that. And so it's kind of neat.
Yeah. Like this lineage of how, this person may have started in this band and then made their way here. And then, it's almost like a family tree of seeing how all these groups are kind of linked together somehow. Yeah.
Well, and then there's the greats, that'll play, essentially the ones that are in all of the Telluride house band, Sam Bush, Jerry Douglas, Brian Sutton, Bela Fleck, and Edgar Meyer, but Stuart Duncan, of course, and who are there, and then it's the same kind of thing where you've got this, key group of players that are, on the top of the heap in the jazz world. So it's not as much that way, and even there's the guitar heroes of rock, but it's not.
It's not the same. It's not the same thing. It is not the same thing. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. So I want to talk to you about your solo albums, because I can't tell you how many times I've listened to them over the years.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And as I said, being a drummer, you managed to get some pretty incredible drummers on those albums. Your first release. How did you start working with Steve Jordan, and what was that experience like?
Well, it's funny. I when I put that record together, and there was a funny story, actually, even how that record kind of came to be. I'd been working with Bill Frisell. We were on a tour, and I kind of casually mentioned that, every once in a while I think about doing a record, and I said, I'd love to have you on it. I'd love to have Jerry Douglas. I'd like to have my sister do like the wordless vocals.
Yeah.
And then he came to the record. We were playing a show at Joe's Pub in New York, and he had coincidentally had a record company meeting with Bob Hurwitz, who was Nonesuch. And he kind of just casually mentioned it to him, our conversation, and Bob then said, well, we should do that. And that was how I got my record. And, it was just totally backwards than, everybody else, and so, and Lee Townsend ended up producing that. And then the last piece of the puzzle was Steve Jordan, because I really wanted to have kind of, because, Bill, who's so distinctly him, but kind of teeters in the, he's thought of as a jazz musician. And then Jerry and my sister being, I'd also been touring a bunch with Jerry Douglas, so I knew that would be a lot of fun too. And those two components, which are in their respective world, but I also wanted to have this rock element to it. So, and I thought, well, Steve would be great. And I had worked with Steve on a couple things with Lyle in the past. There was like I don't remember. It was something It might have been Peel Me a Grape with Blossom Dearie for a Banana Republic ad. It was,
Really?
Yeah. It was with Lyle and Blossom Dearie singing that song as a duet. And it's really cool. But I believe he played drums on that. And then we also did one of those shows. What's the Chicago? There's a Chicago PBS program that.
Yep.
It'll come to me after this is done, I'm sure. But, or in the middle of the night. But he played that show. It was like Lyle was featured. It was in conjunction with a bunch of people that he had done movie scores with.
Okay.
And so Randy Newman was on the show as well as Mark Isham, but he got Steve Jordan to play. And so we had hit it off really well. And so that's when we reached out to him to see about doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was great. I remember there's one, and it's like that magical, you think of that snare drum sound of Steve, and then just that feel. There's a tune off the record called Grit Lap that's supposed to sound, Grit Lap is a term, not a very nice term that's used in Illinois, Champaign, Illinois, where I'm from, where the guys that would drive around the high school in their Trans Ams or Novas it was called a grit lap, and so that was kind of homage to like bands like Billy Squier and
Foghat.
Foghat, exactly, and which I love that stuff, but it was but I remember him playing on this and there's a really long, it's a super slow song, but just, it's like, boom, boom, like that. And I remember him doing this crazy thing, which I've seen more people do it, but I mean, just like where he was keeping time in the air between these massive amounts of.
Just to subdivide, yeah.
Yeah, to subdivide. And, but I mean, of course, he was just incredibly comfortable to play with.
Yeah.
I think we've just done one or two things since then, but there was something, he was producing a Sheryl Crow album or something, and we did something together.
Oh, cool.
Then, but yeah, he's terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful album. And the two of you, just the way you play together, the way you play with any drummer, but yeah, the complementing each other, it's really nice. What led to the decision of doing wordless vocals on that? Did you have any inspiration to that, or was it based around lending to Alison's voice?
Well, I mean, Techlist, I like the idea of her being kind of like a synthesizer, and being, being layered in the same way you do like multiple strings but I did want it to be instrumental for the most part.
Yeah.
But to have voices like that, I thought would have been was a just something interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounding. And
I can't remember. Does that album have any vocals with lyrics? I can't remember.
Yeah, it does. It has one. We did a cover of Robert Plant.
Robert Plant. That's right.
Yeah. The Big Log.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which was always a tune I loved growing up, and when I suggested it to Alison, she goes, "Oh yes."
Little did you know, right?
Yeah.
Leading me on, leading me down the road.
And that actually predates the collaboration by about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. How long between your first solo album and then and the second one?
I think it's about 2 or 3 years. I'm just trying to remember what the amount of time is when we started recording to when it actually came out.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one came out in 2004, and then the other one actually did come out in 2007.
Okay.
And that one it was really fun to make the first one, even though in some ways the first record was a success in terms of it being recognized as nice, but my deal was only with None Such for one record. But I knew I wanted to do another one, and I worked again with Lee Townsend, who was helped me find another home for it, which was on I guess. Boy, the name of the record label changed, but it was a the parent company was EMI.
Oh, okay.
And so that record was a little different in terms of I didn't want to do the exact same thing. Like I deliberately made it very different.
Yeah.
And where it was Matt Chamberlain on drums and Dean Parks as a trio, and I had worked with Dean on a lot of Lyle's records, and just finding more and more about him, and it's just his temperament and and being anyone you wanted. But it was just like he became like one of my biggest guitar heroes.
Oh man!
And and I just thought, boy, wouldn't that be great? And then Matt Chamberlain, I had done one or maybe a couple little tours with him and Bill as a trio, and just his take on everything was just so.
Yeah.
It was just artful and but I guess I always and I never know if he likes this or if there's a middle finger to his playing that
I know that's a wonderful description to it.
Yeah. And that it's just like he means everything, and it's just there's this and he plays almost exactly the way he is, because he's a little quirky, and then he's got a little bit of a edge in a good way.
Yeah,
that really it just I felt like was. I remember we were on some recording date one time, and there was some technical problem that caused maybe an hour and a half, almost 2 hours before we could get it up and running, and there was they had this giant like concert bass drum set up with a beater on it, and we were and we just played just a bunch of just goofy stuff. But he had this, it's like giant, ridiculously long, big bass drum. But it was just never ran out of ideas for that time period. And it's just like, this is great. And, and I've had him record on things that I've produced in the past since that point, but we haven't done a whole lot of playing in the last few years.
Yeah.
But I think anytime we got to do it, it's just like, wow, this is so easy.
He just oozes creativity, I think, when he plays. It's so good. Yeah, his playing on that album, just everything on that album, it's just wonderful. Of course, that great Pink Floyd cover. I'm sure you've talked about that a lot in the past. It's just so cool. And it's like, of all, I would have never in my life thought, who should sing that? But then when you hear Sean sing it, it's like, well, of course. It's like perfect casting in a role.
That's nice.
Her voice just was perfect for that,
Well, she was always one of my favorites. Like ever since hearing like "Steady On,"
yeah,
and just to get to I mean, it's just like, to me, like the whole singer-songwriter, guitarist, singer, she's like the Rolls Royce of all of the angles.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible writing, incredible singing, incredible, guitar playing.
Yeah.
And the thing that the record company, they wanted vocals on this one. They wanted a few more vocal tunes on this recording, and she was someone who came right away, and I think one of my favorite musical moments of all time is when I don't remember exactly which version of Shine On. It's the last one on the record where it goes from 3 to 4. Mm-hmm. It's like one of my favorite moments of all time. Just the broken guitar figure. Yeah. That's a little bit. It shows on the tail end of the first version, and so we ended up borrowing that part, and it was just it felt like it was I felt the arrangement came together pretty easily. I did a mock up of it at home before we actually went into the studio to do it, and just try to borrow parts from it.
Where did you record that album?
That was at Sunset Sound Factory in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And and it was like a totally, I wanted all elements of it to be different. I mean, other than the logistics of having, all of Dean Park's toys available in Los Angeles as well as Matt's. But I wanted that one to feel more like a film score, that second record, and wanted it to feel like Los Angeles.
Yeah. I have a good friend that I know. I grew up in Atlanta, and he's a steel guitar player that lives in Atlanta, but he also plays bass. And I don't know if you are aware of this, but like the steel guitar community talk about a close knit group of people, right?
I've heard about the conventions.
They do the conventions. That's what I was about to say. So, so my friend Bill plays bass for a lot of these conventions, and he's gotten to know Buck really well through that. But I think he was out in Phoenix a few years ago, and there was a guy sitting up on stage playing guitar during the steel guitar show, and it was Dean. And so Dean, I guess he's such a steel guitar fan, he goes to a lot of these steel guitar conventions and just sits and plays rhythm guitar during them.
Yeah, there was a few Lyle tours, or maybe it might have been just one, actually, where he came out and he was actually played steel guitar. And the thing that was so great about him, because he's Dean's such a great, he's so wonderful with effects, just he'll dial in something that's perfect sounding. And so to have all of that knowledge then to be applied to the steel guitar, not only just playing it well, but just to have that vast amount of, sonic space.
Yeah.
And effects, it was pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. He is, all of the things he's done in his career, right? It's unbelievable. Yeah. I want to ask, I have to ask you about this. You alluded to Led Zeppelin earlier about this opportunity to get to play with Alison and Robert Plant. How has that experience been for you? I just can't even imagine.
Well, it was just incredible. Really like a fairy tale in some ways. And I wasn't involved on the first record, but then played bass on the next round of sessions. The record that came out on the second record, the Raise the Roof record, is a collection of we did a whole bunch of recording. I mean, there's probably again maybe twice as many tunes that actually made the record, and then there was a series of recordings that were done 9 years prior. So it's kind of a mixture of those two. It's almost half and half, and so I ended up being asked to do that. And for the tour, it ended up being that we were kind of they were touring around with different band situations and different scenarios, and I ended up playing guitar, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, keys, and a bunch of other little instruments along. So Stuart Duncan and I became like the ones that had instrument changes almost every song. But Roberts really was, I mean, like, you couldn't ask for someone more fun to play with.
I haven't been able to see it live, but I've seen plenty of video of it, and it's just the entire thing. It's so, everyone just looks so comfortable and having so much fun, and just the tones that are produced on that stage. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was, those records are very layered, especially the second record. There's lots of things going on. And it was kind of interesting at first, almost tricky at first to find out who could cover what. And, with three different guitar players trying to, J.D. McPherson's personality, then what I brought and what Stuart brings, we all kind of had to navigate in terms of what wouldn't step on each other.
Yeah.
Who might be better suited to play a particular role on a particular song. So that's why it ended up being they were moving around so much. And it was really, I mean, it was so, I mean, like for me, I kind of thought of myself as more like fine details, like being kind of ones that was, if there was something that was secondary or a counterpoint, that kind of filled the space. I actually really loved that as an arranger, coming from an arranging standpoint, to really be that role of not somebody. I'm fine with being in the back row, not going out and putting my foot on a monitor. But
I understand.
Yeah. But I mean, he was great. I mean, the thing about him, he's so interested in music, such a smart person too, and conscientious, and that he was everything you'd hope he would be. Yeah. And then just so great. Just his timing. I mean, he invented a lot of that stuff, and that we think of as a archetype.
Yeah.
Lead singer and rock singer, but so I felt after working with him that I understood Led Zeppelin so much more.
Yeah.
And that even though he's larger than life in a lot of ways, he's a person, and just to get to know him on that level was really a treat.
Yeah. Well, and he's just as his music has influenced so many. He's been so influenced by American music, from blues to country music, and I'm sure this has been a dream come true for him as well, to get to maybe play styles of music that maybe he grew up hearing and finally getting to do.
Yeah, well, I know he knows a lot more than I do in terms of American music, American roots music, and another thing that was so exciting about it, that he would. So much of his delivery is rooted in improvisation, and so just kind of being on your toes, you kind of have to watch him, and then he would let certain sections just kind of simmer in a certain area, and then when it felt right to jump in again, and almost 100% of the time it would be effective, and it would totally work, and so. That's just really neat.
Really neat. Had you ever worked with Jay before this band?
No. I'd actually overdubbed to him a couple times. But
Man,
yeah. But in terms of when we played, we did some. That was later. Okay, we played on a Paula Cole project one time.
Okay.
Too. But I think it was after. I think the first time we actually tracked together was on the Up and Racer
Okay.
tracking sessions, and it was just like, wow, this is wonderful.
I've tried to figure out how to describe it. His playing, it's like Jim Keltner meets Kenny Malone or something. You know, just this deep drum set understanding, but also such a rich percussion understanding too. You know,
I mean, he really is. He is as much of a percussionist as a drum, but there's this funky element.
Yeah,
that's like this old, like if I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's just his own thing.
It's his own thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just what you all have been able to produce and reproduce, it's pretty magnificent.
Well, and it's neat. There's this, and his knowledge is so vast too. But then every once in a while, he'll throw something in there that you can hear. And again, it's the same kind of thing that Robert did. Like we all know Robert from what we know as Led Zeppelin, and in that range, and he doesn't sing like that necessarily all the time anymore, but he'll throw something in that will go, oh yes, there it is. And in the same way with Jay, like there was, I think we did we did kind of like, it was sort of a medley. I guess it would be a medley. It was we kind of started working up a version of Robert Plant, In the Mood from Principle of Moments, and then it would go into Matty Groves, which was a Fairport Convention song that Alison would sing, and then we'd go into Gallows Pole, which is really just like wow, and one of the highlights of the show, and then right at the tail end, Jay throws in this one, it's not exact, but you know exactly what it is. It's the opening drum fill before the vocals start on Good Times, Bad Times.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And it's just suddenly, then the snare comes out, and it's like wow, it's just, you listen to that too.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find some video of that and give it a listen. Yeah, that's awesome.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what's on the horizon? What are you doing now, Victor?
Well, I mean, this is actually the first time in a long time that I don't have where I'm not touring, and which is kind of a little bit of fish out of water, but just because I've done it for pretty consistently since 92, 93, and so it's always been kind of a thought to maybe not necessarily go out quite as much, and so I'm just doing stuff here in town in terms of studio work, and I'm in the midst of producing a couple of projects in the building that we talked about. One is with a fantastic singer, Gabriela Marone, who is from Argentina. I actually did two records with her and Bill Frisell in the late 90s, early 2000s, and so she came to me and asked for an overdub, and then it turned into a whole record.
Oh, wow, cool. So
we've been in the midst of that, and then I'm also doing another project with. I did it was a duo record with this harpist Maeve Gilchrist.
Yes.
So we're working on some stuff again.
Oh, good.
For a project that she's doing, and she's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Just out of this world. Celtic harpist, but just can be totally left field as well. It's not, has all the Scottish and Irish vocabulary, but also has this totally far outside. That's just one of the best musicians I've ever worked with. And, I'm also doing doing a record with a trio record with Jeff Coffin, who plays with Dave Matthews and with the Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, and Jordan Perlson on drums.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That was we did a trio record that kind of came out of the pandemic that was released about 2 or 3 years, I think 2 years ago. And there's a follow-up record that we recorded also in the back there. And that one has a whole bunch of guests on it, like Mike Stern played on one tune, and Sam Bush was on another, Jerry Douglas, Leo Genovese on piano, who's out with Mars Volta. I guess he won the Grammy for Best Soloist with Wayne Shorter right before he passed away.
Really?
Yeah, and John Beasley, and there's a few others that are on there. But that's a project hope to be done by this year, or have out by this year. So we'll see.
That's awesome. Are you playing live in Nashville very much?
A little bit. It's I have a group that I have that plays the music from those solo records that we were talking about, and that consists of Todd Lombardo, who's a fantastic guitarist, session guitarist here in town, and then Mike Seal.
Oh, I know who Mike Seal is.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Mike plays with me, and he's
something else.
He's something else.
So I've seen Mike with Jeff Sipe.
Okay.
But I also saw him with Jerry, playing with Jerry. Yeah, what a fantastic guitar player he is.
Yeah, just kind of out of this world.
Yeah.
But, and it's got a touch that I don't think everyone, it's finger style, but it's, it's totally different. It's almost like he's playing piano or something. And then the other two players are Robert Crawford on drums, who I've played with for about 15 years. He's fantastic. And then DeMarco Johnson on keys. And so we do something about every month.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And then, just whatever else comes along.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever doesn't require you to deal with the Nashville traffic to go and play a gig, right?
Yeah. Nashville's gotten as worse as bad as Atlanta.
I lived in Nashville in the late '90s, and to go there now, it's like, it's tough. It's busy.
Yeah. It's fortunately, most of the time, all I have to do is walk about 50 yards to the building or go to the airport. But,
yeah, that's right. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Victor, for spending some time, man. This has been such a pleasure to just chat with you. And
I really appreciate you reaching out. It's a very nice series.
This has been a lot of fun, and just best of luck to you. And thanks for all the music that you continue to provide for all of us that love to listen to it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Victor.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on my conversation with the amazing Viktor Krauss. If you're new to the Bandwich Tapes, welcome. And if you've been here for a while, thanks for coming back. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've got a minute to leave a review or rating, it really helps the show. I want to give a big thanks to my friend, Mr. Mark Mundy, for writing the show's theme, Playcation. Until next time, thanks for listening.